It is 9:47 in the evening. Your shift ended 4 hours ago. The patients are sleeping. Your colleagues have gone home. And you are still here, alone with a screen full of half-finished notes. You are tired in a way that sleep does not fix. And underneath that tiredness sits a quiet question that you almost do not want to ask out loud. Is this really what I trained for? If that paragraph could have been written about your last shift, please stay with me, because something is shifting in healthcare in 2026 that I have been waiting 20 years to see. And the window it has opened for you may be the most important career moment of your decade. Ambient AI scribes have stopped being a pilot. They are now an organization-wide rollout. Kaiser Permanente has deployed Average to more than 24,000 physicians across 40 hospitals and 600 medical offices. In a single year, that one deployment saved the equivalent of 1,794 working days of documentation across 2.5 million patient encounters. Mount Sinai and Mayo Clinic are running enterprise deployments. London's NHS trusts have committed to rolling ambient AI scribing out to 20,000 clinicians. Oxford University Hospitals evaluated 4 ambient voice tools side by side and found almost 90% of clinicians reported reduced documentation time. Industry analysts now estimate more than half of US providers will have access to ambient AI by the end of this year. This is not the next pilot. This is the new standard of care for clinical documentation, arriving in real time. And it is going to reshape clinical work in ways that matter enormously for your career, whether you act on it or not. Long before I was coaching clinicians, I lived through a different automation wave that taught me how these moments actually play out and where the opportunity hides. I was at Intel. The company was selling off a business unit that produced chips combining memory and processing. The business needed quality assurance to keep working at scale, but there was no money for more test equipment, no new headcount, no extra shifts. The problem looked unsolvable. I had just rewritten the decades-old code that consumed and organized our chip testing data, taken it from 30 minutes to 30 seconds. So the problem landed on my desk. My answer was not more equipment, it was not more people, it was statistics. I engaged a company statistician, and together we proved that more than 90% of the chips could safely skip the second testing phase entirely, and still meet Intel's bedrock standard. We hit the targets. The unit reached peak profitability right when the business needed it to. Here's the part I want you to hold on to, because it maps directly onto what is happening with ambient AI scribes right now. The win did not come from the technology. It came from somebody who understood the work deeply enough to redesign it around the technology. The engineers could have built the same automation in isolation and produced something useless. What made it work was clinical-style judgment, knowing which steps mattered, which were ritual, and which carried the real safety load. Ambient AI scribes are not going to make clinical work easier on their own. The 2026 evidence is already clear on this. A study across 6 U.S. health systems with 263 ambulatory clinicians showed burnout dropped from 52% down to 39% inside 30 days. Cooper University Healthcare reported 4.15 minutes saved per patient encounter, about an hour back into every clinician's day. Intermountain Health saw a 27% reduction in time and notes. Kaiser physicians reported an 84% improvement in patient interactions, mostly because they were finally able to make eye contact again. But other studies have shown much more modest results, particularly when ambient AI is bolted onto a poorly designed workflow. The reframe is this: the technology is not magic. It is a tool that amplifies whatever workflow you wrap around it. Which means the most valuable person in any of these rollouts in 2026 is not the engineer building the model. It is the clinician redesigning the work around it. Foundation 1, translation fluency. You need to be the person who can sit between the engineers building the model and the clinicians using it at the bedside, and translate fluently in both directions. The engineers cannot see why a real clinician would never write a discharge summary that way. The clinicians cannot articulate why the model's output feels wrong until somebody puts the right words in their mouth. This is the single most undersupplied skill in digital health. Foundation 2, workflow redesign. Time saved by an AI scribe is not automatically value created. If the system absorbs that hour back into more appointments, burnout returns within 90 days. The clinicians who are getting hired are the ones who can co-design a new workflow. That protects the time the AI gives back. For chart closure, for teaching, for the next patient's safety check, for actually going home. Foundation 3. Clinical Safety Judgment. Every ambient AI note carries a residual error rate. Someone has to decide which categories of error are acceptable, which are showstoppers, and how the human-in-the-loop check should be structured. That decision cannot be made by a machine learning engineer alone. It is a clinical safety call. The people making it in 2026 are coming directly from bedside backgrounds. 5 things you can do this week without leaving your current role. 1. Pilot the technology yourself. If your organization offers Ambient AI, opt in this week. If they don't, sign up for a free trial and use it on a meeting summary. You need to know how the tool feels. 2. Document one clinical workflow being touched by AI. Pick something specific. Write the current state, then write the future state once an ambient scribe is layered in. 3. Build baseline digital fluency. The NHS Digital Academy, AMIA, Himasia's Tiger, and the Faculty of Clinical Informatics all offer entry points. Speak the language. 4. Find one workflow problem and propose a structured fix. Take a scribe note your colleague is complaining about. Propose the improvement to your informatics lead. 5. Work with a coach who has done the transition. The clinicians who move fastest are the ones who had somebody translating the career they already had. Every previous wave of healthcare automation, paper to electronic, faxes to messaging, had a narrow window when the clinicians who stepped in defined what the roles became. The clinicians who waited for the dust to settle ended up being managed by the ones who did not. Ambient AI scribes are that wave again, only faster and larger. 10 years from now, the senior digital health leaders, the chief clinical information officers, they will be the clinicians who took 1 or 2 careful steps in 2026. Not the ones with the most followers. The ones who pilot tested the tool, documented a workflow, and wrote one good note. That is the long game. It is shorter and quieter than it looks. If you are a clinician and you can feel this window opening, leave one word in the comments. Tell me which of the 5 steps you are going to take this week. I read them. If you want to go further, my coaching program is built on the Impact Framework. It is designed to translate the clinical career you have into the one waiting for you. Link is below. And if this video helped, subscribe. I publish one of these every week for clinicians making this move. I will see you in the next one.